Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a drill. After years of rumors, denials, and endless social media speculation, it has finally happened. Audrey and Jeremy Roloff, one of the most adored couples from Little People, Big World, have officially announced their divorce. Yes, you heard that right. The fairy-tale romance that once inspired millions has come to a heartbreaking end. But before we jump to conclusions, there's a twist. Because, believe it or not, this story isn't just about love fading away. It's about pressure, perfection, business, and the weight of living under the world's spotlight. So, buckle up. Because what I'm about to share with you might completely change how you see the Roloffs forever. You see, back in the early days, Audrey and Jeremy were the dream couple. They had it all: the charming farm life, the beautiful wedding, and that golden glow of young love. Audrey would post the sweetest photos, always with those poetic captions about faith, love, and marriage. Jeremy would share family shots of their kids playing in the fields, building their little dream home, talking about simplicity and purpose. To fans, they were the modern fairy tale, the kind of couple that made you believe true love was real. But here's where things start to twist. Behind those smiling Instagram posts, something darker was brewing. Something that no filter could fix. People started noticing subtle changes. The smiles in photos seemed a little forced. The captions started to sound more defensive than romantic. And while their followers still praised them for being goals, those closest to the couple began to whisper, things aren't the same anymore. Friends of the Roloffs noticed tension during interviews, at events, even in family gatherings. Jeremy had grown quieter, more distant. Audrey, on the other hand, seemed frustrated, trying harder and harder to keep up appearances. Then came the business stress. Their joint projects, books, podcasts, online marriage journals, weren't bringing the joy they once did. It started to feel like a job, not a passion. Audrey wanted to expand, grow their brand, inspire more couples. Jeremy wanted to step back. He missed the simple life, the peace away from cameras. And when two people's dreams begin to drift apart, the love story slowly starts to crumble. Behind closed doors, arguments grew. Not the kind of fiery fights that explode, but the quiet kind that eats away at a marriage. The late-night talks that end in silence. The dinners where both scroll through their phones instead of looking into each other's eyes. Audrey once hinted about hard seasons in marriage on her blog, but no one imagined those words came from personal pain. Jeremy stopped appearing in her posts as often. Audrey stopped smiling in his. It was subtle, but fans noticed. And then came the unfollowing rumor. When followers realized Audrey and Jeremy had stopped liking or commenting on each other's posts, speculation exploded. Are they separating? Are they fighting? Are they done pretending? At first, Audrey denied it. She wrote about privacy and protecting family peace. But silence, in the world of fame, speaks louder than words. And if you thought this story was just about the two of them, think again. Because the Roloff family, as fans know, has had its fair share of drama. From Matt and Amy's split, to the infamous farm feud, it's been a storm of emotions for years. Jeremy had already distanced himself from Little People, Big World to protect his family's privacy. But that decision didn't come without cost. Stepping away from fame meant stepping away from opportunity, and that put even more pressure on their marriage. Sources close to the family say Audrey felt isolated, caught between supporting her husband's desire for privacy and her own dreams of building their public brand. And then came the breaking point. It happened quietly. No big announcement, no dramatic argument on camera, just a slow, painful realization that things couldn't go on. Audrey and Jeremy were seen separately more often. She attending events alone, he working on solo projects, both avoiding questions about their marriage. Then, one morning, an insider leaked that divorce papers had been filed in Oregon. Fans didn't want to believe it, but soon, it was confirmed. Audrey and Jeremy Roloff had officially separated. The statement came days later. We have decided to part ways after much thought, prayer, and time. We remain committed to co-parenting our children and supporting each other as we move forward separately. Simple words. But behind them, years of love, heartbreak, and quiet tears. The internet exploded. Some fans were heartbroken. Others said they saw it coming. And many wondered, what went wrong between two people who built their entire brand on faith and marriage? Was it fame? Was it pressure? Was it simply time? No one really knows. But one thing's certain, this wasn't a sudden decision. It was the result of years of slowly drifting apart. Audrey posted a cryptic message just days after. Sometimes, choosing peace means walking away. Jeremy, meanwhile, shared a simple photo of their kids playing. No caption, just silence. And that silence said everything. Let's be honest. No matter how perfect a relationship looks on the outside, nobody knows what happens when the camera turns off. Marriage is hard. But when your marriage becomes a brand, when love becomes content, it can be nearly impossible to keep it real. Audrey and Jeremy tried. They built books about marriage, courses about communication, and blogs about living with purpose. But maybe, somewhere along the way, they forgot to live those lessons themselves. And that's not judgment, it's just human. They're two people who fell in love young, grew up in the spotlight, and tried to make it all work in a world that never stops watching. Now, as they go their separate ways, the big question remains, what's next for Audrey and Jeremy Roloff? Will they continue working together on projects? Will they split their business ventures? Will one of them return to Little People, Big World? Or are both done with TV forever? Sources say Audrey plans to continue her personal brand, focusing on motherhood, faith, and lifestyle content. Jeremy, on the other hand, wants to move toward a quieter life, focusing on his kids, and perhaps writing a solo memoir about the truth behind fame. And who knows? Maybe with time they'll find peace, not as a couple, but as co-parents and friends. Before we close, I want you to think about something. Sometimes, the strongest love stories don't end with forever. Sometimes, they end with two people brave enough to say, we've done our best. And now it's time to let go. For years, Audrey and Jeremy inspired people with their love. Now maybe, just maybe, they'll inspire others with their honesty too. Because it takes courage to build a life together. But it takes even more courage to walk away with grace. So tonight, let's not point fingers or take sides. Let's just wish them both peace, for the memories they gave us, and the lessons they're leaving behind. Love doesn't always last forever. But sometimes it doesn't have to still be real. In part 2, we'll go even deeper, into the shocking behind-the-scenes details, the family's reaction, and the real reason Audrey and Jeremy decided to end it all. Stay tuned, because the next chapter might surprise you even more. Previously, on our deep dive into Audrey and Jeremy Roloff's heartbreaking divorce, we uncovered the signs, the silence, and the struggles that led to the end of their picture-perfect marriage. But as they say, every ending has more than one side. And in this part, we're peeling back the final layers, to reveal how this split truly shook the Roloff family, what really happened behind closed doors, and where both Audrey and Jeremy are heading next. So grab your coffee. Because this next chapter? It's emotional, revealing, and maybe a little unexpected. When the divorce news first broke, the Roloff family was stunned. Matt Roloff, the family patriarch, reportedly found out just days before the public announcement. He was heartbroken, but not entirely surprised. You see, Matt has seen it all before. The love, the fights, the breakdowns. After his own divorce from Amy, he once said, "Sometimes family grows, and sometimes it grows apart." And those words, years later, ring truer than ever. Amy Roloff, Audrey's mother-in-law, had always tried to stay neutral. But sources close to the family say she was devastated. She'd been proud of the couple's faith and commitment, often calling them the hope of the next generation. When she heard the news, she reportedly told a friend, "I never thought I'd see this happen to them." And that just shows you, even the strongest families can be shaken by heartbreak. Then, there were Tori and Zach Roloff. For years, fans have compared these two couples, Jeremy and Audrey versus Tori and Zach. Both brothers married strong, social media savvy women. Both built families in the public eye. But behind the scenes, things weren't always peaceful. Tori and Audrey reportedly had a strained relationship, friendly on the surface, but distant underneath. Different personalities, different values, different ways of handling fame. When Audrey and Jeremy announced their split, Tori posted something subtle. A photo of her own family with the caption, "Grateful for what we have, every single day." Fans immediately speculated it was shade. Was Tori taking a dig? Or was it just coincidence? Either way, it stirred up old tensions. Jeremy, meanwhile, was reportedly hurt by the whispers that his marriage had failed while his brother's was thriving. It's not a competition, of course, but family comparisons can sting, especially when the whole world is watching. And then came the practical side, the business breakup. For years, Audrey and Jeremy built an empire together. Books like A Love Letter Life, online courses, podcasts, and marriage journals. Their brand was built around their love. But when that love ended, the question became, what happens to the brand? Audrey reportedly wanted to keep their joint business alive, rebranding it into something focused on personal growth and motherhood. Jeremy disagreed. He wanted to step away entirely, to start over quietly, without turning their pain into profit. This led to a private but emotional business meeting. Just the two of them, their manager and a lawyer. It wasn't about anger, it was about closure. By the end of that meeting, they agreed, Jeremy would step down from the company. Audrey would continue her lifestyle and family-focused brand under her own name. It was fair, mature, but deeply sad. Because every post, every book, every project they'd ever made, was a reflection of a love story that no longer existed. Now, let's talk about the part that breaks everyone's heart. The kids. The Roloffs have always been family-oriented, and for Audrey and Jeremy, their children were their world. Their little ones, Ember, Bode, and Radley, have grown up surrounded by love, farm adventures, and faith-filled family life. Sources close to Audrey say she's focused on keeping things stable for them. She's kept the same routines, the same bedtime stories, the same family traditions, because for the kids, consistency means comfort. Jeremy has remained active in their lives, co-parenting with full effort, even attending church together occasionally for the kids' sake. And while both parents are still healing, they've made one thing clear. Our children will always come first. That promise, more than anything, shows their maturity. Love may fade, but family remains. Now, here's something few people know. Behind the divorce is a bigger theme, the struggle between faith and perfection. Audrey and Jeremy built their image around Christian values. They spoke openly about faith-based marriage, discipline, and communication. Their followers looked up to them, saw them as spiritual role models. But over time, that image became a burden. They felt the pressure to look perfect, to live what they preached, 24/7. Audrey once confessed on a podcast, "When you're known for marriage advice, you feel like you're not allowed to fail." That kind of emotional weight can crush even the strongest hearts. Because real love isn't perfect. It's messy, it's complicated, it's human. But their audience wanted perfect. And trying to live up to that image? Eventually, it tore them apart. After the announcement, both Audrey and Jeremy went quiet online. No big interviews, no emotional confessions, just silence. But silence, sometimes, is the beginning of healing. Audrey reportedly took a short break, staying with close friends for a few weeks, away from cameras. She focused on prayer, journaling, and spending time with the kids. Jeremy, on the other hand, was seen working on the family farm, fixing fences, spending time outdoors, reconnecting with nature. Sources say they've both agreed to keep their separation as peaceful as possible. No drama, no blame, no public fighting. And in Hollywood or reality TV, that's rare. Maybe that's the one part of their story that still feels like a miracle. Of course, the internet had a lot to say. Fans flooded their comment sections with thousands of messages. Some supportive, some shocked, and some judgmental. One fan wrote, "They taught me to believe in love. I can't believe it's over." Another said, "This is life. Love is real, but people change. I respect their honesty." And among all the noise, one message stood out, a quiet reminder that even public figures are just human. Because at the end of the day, Audrey and Jeremy's story isn't about fame or failure. It's about growth, painful, personal growth. So what now? As of today, Both Audrey and Jeremy are carving new paths. Audrey is writing again, this time, focusing on self-worth, motherhood, and rediscovering identity. She's hinted at a new book, one that's raw, real, and free from pressure. Jeremy, meanwhile, is exploring documentary-style work, perhaps telling the story of what life looks like after the cameras stop rolling. There are whispers that he may even return to TV, not in a reality format, but as a producer or storyteller. Ironically, after years of avoiding fame, he might find peace by sharing the truth his own way. Their fans? Still divided. Some hope for reconciliation one day. Others are just glad to see them moving forward with dignity. Now, let's take a step back. Because beyond the gossip and emotion, there's a lesson here. Relationships aren't about never falling apart. They're about growing, learning, and having the courage to face the truth. Audrey and Jeremy's story reminds us that even love built on faith and strength can change. It doesn't make it less meaningful, it just makes it real. And if anything, maybe their honesty will help others. The couples struggling behind smiles, the people feeling trapped by expectations, the ones pretending everything's okay when it's not. Because sometimes, love doesn't end. It just transforms into something different: respect, gratitude, and quiet understanding. In their last joint statement, Audrey and Jeremy wrote one final line that touched millions. "We're grateful for the love we shared and the family we built. This is not an ending, it's a new chapter." And maybe, that's what we should remember most. Their story isn't just about divorce, it's about two people brave enough to be honest, to stop pretending, to choose peace over perfection. We live in a world where people fake happiness for likes and followers. But Audrey and Jeremy? They chose truth. And that takes courage. So tonight, as we close this chapter, let's not see this as a tragedy. Let's see it as a transformation. Because maybe, the bravest kind of love is the one that knows when to say goodbye. Wherever they go from here, we wish them strength, healing, and happiness. Because in the end, every ending is just the start of something new. This has been your host, and thank you for joining me on this emotional journey through the Roloff story, a story of faith, love, and the reality of being human. Until next time, take care of your hearts, cherish your loved ones, and remember, real love isn't perfect. It's honest.